Five, four, three, two, one. Hello, everybody. This is John D'Acquisto and Dave Jordon for another round of Fastball John. Today we're going to be touching base on, as spring training nears an end and the season starts to begin, on how the WBC affects players coming up into the ranks and gives them a shot at making the ball club while the big boys are playing in the WBC. We're also going to talk what it was like to go through that, being a player and coming down to the last day and getting released. So these are things we're going to touch on today with my co-host, Dave Jordon. So welcome, everybody. Hi, Dave.
Hey, Johnny D. How are you tonight?
I'm doing good, buddy. Doing good. No complaints, as they say.
I love that. I love that. We're getting close now. There's a lot of eyeballs, obviously, on the NCAA basketball tournament right now. I know my bracket's been busted by my beloved Villanova getting knocked out yesterday. So I can.
Oh, I know.
I can
what a
freely
heartbreaker.
focus on. It was terrible. It was terrible. But I can freely focus on baseball now, which is a good thing.
There you go.
Your end out in the Cactus League. What observations can you make from what you've been seeing so far this spring?
Well, what I've seen, because of the WBC, which is the World Baseball Classic, I've seen a lot of young kids getting an opportunity to show their stuff, and a lot of successes and a lot of failures.
Right.
To say, there's a lot of kids that they get to look at now. This is really beneficial for the clubs when it comes down to certain times in the season. If somebody gets hurt and it gets placed on the DL and they can bring somebody up, it really has actually benefited the Major League Ball clubs in finding out who can and who can't pitch under these conditions. And I look at it. I've got one guy that I really like a lot. Happens to be an Arizona Diamondback. He's a left-hander, stands at about 6'7", 6'8", about 245 pounds. His name is Jared Miller. And Jared, in the Arizona Fall League, had a strikeout-to-walk ratio of 24-1 at one point and an ERA of nothing. He throws the ball 97 miles an hour, and his slider bumps at about 90. And the last guy I saw that had a slider that was bumping 90 was a guy by the name of Bob Gibson. Most of the sliders you're looking at are 88, 89, 87. This kid can really throw, and he utilizes that big frame to hide the ball, and you see the hitters actually flinch at the plate because they can't pick up the ball. I believe if they use this kid this year, which, this is just, of course, my opinion, but if they use this kid this year, they may start him off in AAA to see how he does in AAA because he played AA last year. But he's getting a real good shot here in the spring. And this is one of the things that we were talking about, an indication that with the guys going to the WBC, most of the D-backs pitching staff, like Zach Greinke is here still. Mm-hmm. He did not go and play in the WBC. And, there's a lot of the main guys for the D-backs pitching staff are still here in Arizona. A lot of the players went, like Paul Goldschmidt. He went and played. A.J. Pollock. But you look at the opportunity that this young man is getting, and all the eyes are on him right now. It's actually amazing to see that they're finally looking at some talent that is duly noted and can play probably in the big leagues. And he's got great control. He spots his stuff and teases you and does all the right things, and he's got real good instincts. So looking at that, here's a kid that's getting a real chance to probably make the ball club. And I would use him as an 8th and 9th inning guy. But he just stands above them all. He's been doing really well.
An amazing K rate of over 14 for 9 innings, which is pretty. That's
incredible. Pretty amazing. Yeah. It's pretty amazing, David. And that's all in short stints. It's all in short stints. And he hasn't changed. In every level he's been in, he has had these types of numbers. And, you got to give the kid a shot. But like I say, the safe bet is you start him off in AAA. If he does well up there, then you might think about bringing him down here. And in my opinion, with the D-backs looking for a closer, at that point, I know they got Fernando Rodney, but here Fernando Rodney, he's pitching in the WBC. So, it's like, okay, maybe this kid is what we're looking for, and they're giving him a chance in a closing spot. He just might take the job.
At single A plus Visalia last year, he pitched to a 1.88 ERA with a K rate 12.6. It's only in 14 innings, but that's a nice little sample size to show what
it's a good ratio and a microscopic ERA to go with it. He's a good kid too. He's a real good kid, and he's got good chemistry with the team. And he'd be a perfect asset for the Diamondbacks ball club. Moving to other notes, I've seen some things. I've been working mostly Kansas City and Texas this year, and I've seen some players. Seattle, I saw today. Seattle has a center fielder that is unbelievably fast. Not a very big guy. I've got to be able to pull up his name here in my head, but he was amazing. He caught a ball from center field and ran it down Manoa or something like this. He plays for Seattle. He took off and caught a ball that was a line shot into the gap and snagged it like it was nothing. Gets a real good jump on the ball, good hitter, hits all fields. He's going to be a big asset to Seattle because getting a guy in center field like that is very, very valuable because it helps the pitching, and it also helps the team. When the other side's getting the ball in the gap and this guy's catching it like it's nothing. And
that was today's against Texas, correct?
That's correct. Yes. Yes.
Silverado or Viridia?
Yeah, Viridio. That's it. You got it. And he played really well today, and I've seen him a couple of times, and I'll tell you what, he's very impressed. He impressed me. He's the type of guy I'd like behind me when I'm on the mound because if you're a fly ball pitcher, that's the type of guy you want, snagging those fly balls down. He just plays, and he's got a strong arm, real strong arm. I mean, he almost threw a guy out at third from deep center field. And I mean, it was a one hopper to the third baseman. I mean, he threw a pea to the third baseman. And these are things that you look for in players, and he's got good instinct too. So all the numbers start flying up, and here's a guy that's getting a real opportunity to play for a club and might make a difference. He might make a difference.
So, yeah, he had 107 plate appearances last year for Seattle. Didn't do amazing. I mean, you're looking at a 250 average and on base around 340. But in the small sample size of the spring, he's hitting 415 and on base at close to a 50% clip. And you spoke that he had a Adam Jones-like prowess out there in the field this afternoon. It's definitely somebody to keep an eye on.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a kid that, like you say, he didn't have a good year last year, but I think he's coming into his own this year. He's really turned into being quite a player, and kids grow up, they grow up, and you just don't know when it's going to happen, but you hope it happens soon, and that's the whole thing, and here you've got Cervais and Dipoto, they want that balanced metrics, with old school thinking. And these are what a lot of the GMs are diving into now. They still want to have that old school thinking. See, and remember the conversation we had before about talking about what was on the MLB network and what Harold Reynolds said about getting back into the old school methodologies, but yet keeping the sabermetrics there to look at the numbers. But don't forget about the instincts and the heart and the guts of a player also. It's just not numbers. You got to know your players. And I see Seattle is starting to get into that area. which is really good.
Well, there's so much insight that can be gleaned from the numbers. I mean, that's been proven over the past 10, 15 years, but there has to be the acknowledgement that all is well with the person psychologically. You have to understand if there's an issue going on with the player, and you need a manager who's sensitive enough and can communicate with the players, and that if they're having a problem, they're going to go to the coach or the manager. And you can't just look at the numbers in a vacuum and say, all right, this guy's just not doing it. You have to figure out why he's not doing it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where they do go. They go to the ones that they can trust and to tell them they have a problem and that it needs to be handled. And then the manager will take over from there. If you're a good people person, you do very well as manager, i.e. Joe Madden. There's a prime example of a manager that takes his club and treats them like his sons. It's such a good method. And Joe is the type that goes with the sabermetrics, but he also adds that old school flavor in it. And another ball club that does that is the Washington Nationals, who sit there and do the same thing. Yeah. Exactly.
One of the coolest characters in baseball, Dusty Baker. And he has.
Yeah, Mike Rizzo is a very smart guy, and in talking to he puts a lot of the old school guys around him. Ron Reese, Chuck Cottier, his father, Phil Rizzo. I mean, these are guys that have been around the game for years. And, when they talk, you listen. They see things. They know talent, but they also know that they look at the numbers on the sabermetrics, but they also look at the heart and the guts of a player and the instinct of the player. They don't leave that side out of it. And maybe that's why they're successful.
Yeah.
Good point.
That's why they have guys like, your old buddy Spire. He's over there, too. That they're these baseball guys that have been around the game forever and understand all of the off-the-field nuances and how to, interpret that through the numbers. And that's the most important thing,
Exactly. Exactly. They do know how to interpret the numbers.
People person as well with respect to those numbers.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
It's funny, we were talking earlier about the Mets situation. They have a ton of starters right now. And there's this Robert Gsellman is having a very good spring. There's talk that he's going to be the fifth starter. They may keep Zach Wheeler down in extended training. They have Seth Lugo, who may be transferred to the bullpen in the early going. He's representing Puerto Rico in the World Baseball Classic. And somebody asked Terry Collins this past weekend about the starting pitching race. He responded, you have to be careful what you're seeing in March. Talk to me about the numbers in March for a pitcher and the metrics that you see in pitchers. If a pitcher has a great, like a 2.3 ERA in spring training, how important is that? How relevant is a pitcher's spring numbers and what's not relevant?
Well, there's a lot of things you have to look at because with spring training, you're going to have a dead arm period after the first 2 weeks. That's where a pitcher's arm goes kind of dead, and then it builds up again. And so you kind of take that week where the dead arm period occurs, which we just passed here in this last week, and you could see the numbers were astronomical if you didn't realize it. But you look at that and you say, all right, who got through that period? Who came to spring training in shape? Who's a guy I can rely on for a lot of innings? Who's a guy that I can rely on in situations that rose to the occasion, that really wants to make this ball club? And then you start looking at the guts, the heart, the instinct, and the ability of a person, not just numbers. And so that's why Terry Collins says, don't look at the numbers. I'm looking for all the other side of it. The numbers will come. If the guy's got talent, he's going to come. He's going to come to play. But like if you're looking at a guy like DeGrom and Jay, he goes out today and he's throwing 100 miles an hour. He might be ready, and he built up in this outing, one of his strongest outings he's had all spring, but he built up to it. And so the guys that are slated to make these staffs build up to where they have to be. He popped 5 1/3 today, and he gave up 4 earned runs on 7 hits. But he also struck out 4 and he walked 1, which is really good. He had good command, but he was also throwing the ball free and easy. These are things that you want to look at. I just hope he doesn't get hurt again. He's one of the kids that does the inverted W. And if you don't know what the inverted W is, it's where both shoulders come together right before they throw. Strasburg is like that. There's a lot of guys like that I see, and they all have injuries on their record. Inverted W is not a way to go, in my opinion. But when you look at how it affects, like I'll give you an example. When I was with Oakland, and I was at the end of my career, my ERA in spring training was 2.76. I was closing a lot of games, and I was doing well. I had 17 2/3 innings, David. 17 2/3. And I got released on the last day because I wasn't in their plans.
Right.
Then you have to start saying, well, okay, now we have a pigeonhole. Political? I'm really not in the plans because I'm 33 at the time, or 32. And, and then you go, well, okay, maybe I could be in the plans of somebody else with an ERA like that and running up some good numbers and throwing the ball 95 plus. Maybe someone else will bought me. But when they release you on the last day, you got no chance of going anywhere. They didn't even give me an option to go to AAA. They just released me outright, which meant I was in limbo. So there are guys that are sitting in that are more in a veterans position that are trying to make a club that got an invite, that are maybe getting a chance, but they're not performing. They're going to get cut loose. They're going to get cut loose because there's some kid down below that's coming on like a freight train.
Yeah.
So
what are they looking for then in spring training from a guy who's 32 and can fill the 8th or 9th or 10th spot in the pen? What are they looking to see?
Okay, A, can he throw strikes on the outside? B, can he come in for effect? And C, does he have a good breaking ball?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in the 8th and 9th, you're not looking for anyone to throw any change-ups. You're looking for hard, and you're looking for hard away because you want to keep it away from the hitter's power. You don't want to make a mistake over the plate or inside. That is the hitter's power cage. So you want to stay away from that. So what you really want to look at is the guy that has the command to keep that nice little cutter on the outside corner or that nice sinker away from the left-hander that's about 94, 95. It's got some juice behind it, and then it has a hard slider. And those are the guys you want to look at. I saw it today, a kid from Texas, Matt Bush, San Diego, kid from San Diego, had his problems. He was the number 1 draft pick for the San Diego Padres, got into a little bit of trouble. But you know what? He's really grown up now. He's come back and he's pitching. He's pitching for the Texas Rangers, and he's an 8th inning guy. And he came in today throwing about 96, 97, and he had a real good slider. And the kid's never had any trouble going out there. He gets you out. But what does he do? He keeps the ball away, and he has that hard slider. So he has those 2 ingredients that you want, and he throws strikes. He throws strikes. You cannot have a guy go into a game, David, in the 8th, 7th, 8th, or 9th, with the game close and not being able to get the ball over the plate. That is the cardinal sin of being a relief pitcher. Throw strikes, as they all say.
30-year-old rookie last season, ERA plus of 182, a whip below 1, and an ERA, pitched to an ERA below 2.5 in 61 innings. And with a strikeout per inning. He had a heck of a year last year, Matt Bush.
Yes, he did have a heck of a year, and that was his first year. This year is going to be even better because his confidence is building. And that 30-year-old, he missed a good 8 years of his career because he went to jail for manslaughter. But you know what? That's in the past. That's in the past. They've given him a chance. He's responded. He's behaving himself. And he looked really good today. And he's going to be a big part of that Texas Rangers ball club. And the other thing is, as Kayla, the kid from Hawaii, came out and pitched well, too. He pitched 2 innings of relief and didn't give up anything. And the Rangers ended up beating the Mariners 4-3. So it was a good game. Good game to watch and fast game. I like fast.
Yep. Yeah, Kayla is 23 years old, and Matt Bush, he was a first-round draft pick. He was the first pick overall. Wow.
Yeah, overall. Yep.
That's amazing. Out of Mission Bay High School.
Well, that was because of the Padres. They were in dead last. That's why.
Yeah. Now, what do you do with DeGrom? He's throwing 100 miles an hour, hitting triple digits on the gun. All right, so it looks like he's okay now. We still have 10 days left, 11 days of spring training. He probably sees the mound 2 or 3 more times. What kind of regimen do you have for him, for a guy like that's coming off surgery, but it looks like his velocity is more than when we left him last?
Yeah, he threw 72 pitches, and I believe that they've got him on a pitch count, of course. So his pitch count was probably at 70 today, and at 6, and they'll probably give him 80 pitches next time out, and that'll maybe get him into the 6th. If they can get him into the 6th, then they can let the bullpen after him. All right, and if he is free and easy and doesn't have any trouble along the way, he might get into the 7th. So you keep inching him closer and closer to the 9-inning mark. You don't want him to go 9, but you try to make him go 9 if he can, and that's a 100-pitch mark. That's what you're looking for. You're trying to get him up to 100 pitches where he is not tiring. When you reach that spot, you've achieved your goal, and I think that's where they're headed with him right now. He's responding to it. And Terry Collins is an old school manager and knows how to work that. And Dan Worthen, I know Dan. He's a great pitching coach. He knows what he's doing. He's right there. He's on top of it. And I've talked a little bit about pitching with him, and he's right on. He's right on. He's one of the better pitching coaches in baseball. So. They might have a pretty strong pitching staff this year. This kid, if Jacob comes back the way he was before, Dave, he's going to be tough. He's going to be tough.
Yeah, I've never heard him have velocity this impressive at this point. And I'm just my question was, if he's able to throw 100 at this point, I mean, do you want to? Is it an issue of kind of sacrificing bullets, or do you need to still continue to build that up and have him maintain that velocity in spring training games?
Well, you want to maintain the velocity. The question is was it consistently at 100? Or was it at 95, 96, 97, and occasionally 100? These are things that you want to look at. And in his case, you got all those hard throwers over there in Mets country, with Syndergaard and DeGrom and Harvey, and they're all trying to outdo each other. But, the next time you try to outdo each other, you might be in a frickin' hospital getting your arm worked on again. You gotta back off and throw the good stuff when you need it, not all the time. Like Johnny Sane told me, he says, I believe in pitching, it should be slow, slower, slowest. Not give them your best fastball first, because they start to time you on that first pitch. So you give them a nice, mediocre, good fastball, and then you save the good one for when you need it. And I said, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And look who had Johnny Sane as a pitching coach when he was coming up in the Braves organization. A guy named Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine, Johnny Smoltz. They all had Johnny Sane in spring training every year. He'd come down and talk in his southern voice and tell you, buddy, you just can't throw it hard all the time.
Especially
it's location.
Glavine, no doubt. They got a lot of that.
Exactly. So, it's all important. It's nice to be able to throw hard, but, save those bullets in your gun for when you need to shoot something, okay? Like a punch-out in the 6th when you got bases loaded. Then you break it out if you still got it. That's just the way I think.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about the Mets situation and all their starters, and they have Syndergaard seems to be, running on all cylinders now. Matz is looking great. Harvey still has some issues, and DeGrom's looking fantastic. The two guys that came up recently, or came up at the end of the year, was Gazelman and Seth Lugo. They're looking good as well. I remember when you were, let's go back for a second because we always love these stories anyway. In 1977, you had arrived to St. Louis, and there was a plethora of pitchers who had achieved some notoriety as starters, and basically you had Bob Porsche, and you had John Denny, who was the ERA champ at 76. You had Durker, who came over from the Astros, and Eric Rasmussen, and also Mike Caldwell came over in the trade with you from San Francisco.
Who won 17 games the year before.
Yeah, he had an amazing year in 74. So now, the situation like that, you see all those, and Pete Falcone also, who was supposed to be in the Rookie of the Year in 75. So there was a slew of starters there that could very easily come north. I mean, you're walking into that situation. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking, oh my God, where am I going to go now? This could really hurt my career. I'm backed up here. And I might not be in their plans all of a sudden. I might be trade bait for somebody else. Because I knew somebody wanted me, because I had a pretty good spring, but yet, I was having, here I go again, being a player rep, getting myself in trouble. So I knew I was expendable at that time. In the bullpen, we had Clay Carroll that came from the Cincinnati Reds, who had a pretty good year before. So I knew I'd be either slated as a sixth man or a long man or a swing man, as they call them. And, it's like, I need to be pitching, or put me in the pen and let me throw every other day for 2 or 3. I want to do a job, but just give me a job and leave me alone. All right. But that wasn't exactly how it happened,
I know.
And it's like,
we talked about that in the book, what happened once you got north, or once you went north with the ball club and all the shenanigans with the 21-day DL. As the days progressed in spring, and you were still there, and then March 29th comes around, and you see your buddy Caldwell get shipped to Cincinnati for Pat Darcy. So kind of, it looks like you're going to make the team, but you still see, oh my God, there's 6 starters here. What are they going to do?
Yeah. Then I started thinking maybe I'm going to be the mop-up man. Okay. And, okay, they got 6 starters, but Larry Durker was having problems. So I knew I would eventually take that 6th spot, and which happened actually. Durker got hurt, and I was able to get into that 6th spot. And then the day they gave me the ball to pitch, after coming off the DL, he was hoping that I would have failed, but I have a no-hitter going into the 5th. And it's like, oh, well, this isn't supposed to happen. But they were showcasing me at the time, because then I knew I was trade bait. And so they were showcasing me to the Padres. And because I saw Bob Fontaine a couple of times when I was pitching. And that's very unusual when the GM starts popping up, So,
back for a second, you saw that, Larry Durker had his final season in the majors with St. Louis. He was 30 years old. I mean, you think like he had played for 14 years, and a lot of people don't realize he was, he came into the big leagues when he was 17 years old.
Yeah, he wasn't much older than me, when you look at it. And we both started young, in our careers. And Dirks was a great guy. I'm going to tell you. And he looked at me, he goes, I don't think I can do this anymore. I go, what's the matter? He says, oh, my shoulder's killing me. And I said, well, why don't you? No, I think I've about had it, And you talk to the older guys, and he wasn't that much older. He still had probably 3 or 4 years left. But you could just see it in their face, the pain, and you could see the anguish when they throw. You see them grimace, and you go, what is he trying to prove? But then Larry Durker figured it out. He shut it down. and it turned out to be a pretty good broadcaster afterwards. But, you know, it's like you see, you see it happening all the time, Dave. And you just wonder am I next? You know, and you've got to play under those conditions. You know, and it's difficult sometimes. It's very, very, very difficult. You know.
Yeah, Durker was released by the Cardinals toward the end of, back to your point about the Oakland A's. He was released by the Cardinals at the end of spring training, 1978. But at the end of 31 years old, and he had an amazing, really amazing career. He's a 20-game winner, and it was like
he did really well.
Yeah.
He did really well. And you know, it happens to all of us. It happens to all of us. And see what happens. They have this thing called the waiver process. If they put you on waivers, and nobody claims you, then you are not valuable to that ball club. You will then be released if you pass waivers. You'll be released. You can keep your contract, but you're gone. That means there's no interest in you whatsoever. But if you go through waivers and you're picked up by 3-4 teams, you're still a valuable piece to that ball club as a trade piece.
Yeah.
See, and people don't realize that there's a process to this whole madness that goes on. You know,
that's a fascinating little poker game, isn't it? Though, because if you're a GM and you see a guy that you're nominally interested in, you might say to yourself, you know what, I'm not going to submit a claim because maybe I'm the only one who kind of sees what no one else. I'm the one that sees it that no one else sees it, and they get a chance to in there. I think that's what the Mets did with Jose Reyes last year. When
exactly. They took a chance on Reyes. They took a chance on him, took him under their wing, and said, "Any mistakes and you're gone. We need you here. Behave yourself." And basically, that's what happened. And there's a lot of players, you know, that experience it's a lot of the pressure becomes like a pressure cooker. And all of a sudden, you got to remember, you're a human being. And that pressure comes on to you, and you explode. Whether it's, you know, in a situation with your family, your wife, or whatever, you know, you're going to go off. And if you go off, good luck with that. It happened to Aroldis Chapman. It happened to Reyes. It's happened to a number of kids. And they're kids, David. They're kids, you know, in a situation that they've never been in before. And what we forget is that we know it as players and being involved in the game, but the general fan doesn't. They don't understand what these guys go through. Yep. You know, they just think it's all glamorous and signing autographs and playing baseball. No, it's on the backside too. You have to handle yourself professionally through the whole thing. And good luck if you don't. It could be detrimental to you, your career, and your family.
So, your family.
Yep. Well, we've hit our mark, my friend. We've hit our point. It's another great evening of talking baseball with you, Dave Jordon. You're the best.
Thanks.
And, you know, everybody, you need to get a copy of Fastball John. I'm going to tell you what. You want to read a book that'll put a smile on your face and read the talent of Dave Jordon and the mental aspect of what I went through in my career, and to combine the two, you're going to get a fine piece of literature for your collection. So you can go and get a copy of Fastball John. It's on Amazon.com, and it's also on Barnes & Noble, and it's in the Kindle version on Amazon.com also. So get yourself a copy, enjoy it, and if you want to get it signed, get a hold of us through Facebook at Fastball John, and we'll be glad to give you the information where you can send it, and we'll take care of signing it and get it back to you. All right? So everyone take care and look forward to another week of Fastball John next week. And that's a big week next week. And this is going to be a fun one. This is where all the moves start to happen. All right?
Yep.
So good night, my friend.
Good night, Johnny.
All right. We'll talk to you later. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.